In April 1992, a farmer near a ravine in Putnam County, Indiana, found human remains dumped in the brush. No head, no hands, no feet. Whoever left the body there had done it specifically so no one would ever know who it was. For 26 years, they were right. The case sat in a file drawer with no name attached to it, just unidentified remains. Then in 2018, DNA finally gave that body back its identity. And 7 years after that, a confession cracked open a story involving a stolen car radio, a bucket of wet concrete, and a secret two men had carried for over 3 decades. A man who simply didn't come home. Tony Bledsoe was 24 years old, married with a young child, living in the small town of Arcadia, Indiana. He'd recently lost a factory job that had given his family some financial footing, but by every account, he kept showing up for his wife and kid anyway. On March 16, 1992, he got behind the wheel of his gray Oldsmobile Cutlass with $8 in his pocket and an eighth of a tank of gas, and he left the house. He never came back. His wife waited, called around, and eventually called the police. Investigators retraced what little they could of his last day, but there wasn't much to trace. No witnesses, no leads, nothing connecting his disappearance to anything. Within weeks, the trail had gone completely cold. Nobody knew yet that his remains had already turned up less than 3 weeks later, dumped in a ravine 10 miles away, unidentifiable and destined to stay that way for a generation. 26 years of silence. For over 2 decades, that body in the ravine and the missing man from Arcadia sat in 2 completely separate case files, with no evidence connecting them. Advances in DNA testing finally closed that gap in 2018, confirming what Tony's family had likely feared for years. Their husband and father had never simply walked away. He'd been murdered the same month he vanished, and whoever did it had gone to serious lengths to make sure he could never be identified. That identification reopened the case, but knowing who the victim was didn't tell investigators who killed him. Old reports got pulled back out, old witnesses got re-interviewed, and for a while, that renewed effort still didn't produce a name. The tip that broke it open. The real break came almost exactly 26 years after Tony disappeared. A tip that reached investigators just 2 days before his identification became public. According to the source, a man named Thomas Anderson had once described, in graphic and specific terms, watching someone else kill Tony Bledsoe and then dismember his body. What made the tip credible wasn't just that it was detailed, it was that the details lined up with facts about the crime scene that had never been released publicly. The dismemberment matched exactly, head, hands, and feet removed, and the tipster described the missing parts being placed inside a bucket filled with concrete. A detail investigators had deliberately kept out of the news, specifically so they'd be able to verify a genuine confession if one ever surfaced. This one matched. From there, detectives spent years building a case quietly. Interviews, search warrants, corroboration, before finally making an arrest. The confession. On May 20th, 2025, Indiana State Police arrested 53-year-old Thomas "Tommy" Anderson Jr. and charged him in Tony's death. Over 3 separate interviews, Anderson reportedly laid out what he said had happened, tying the motive back to a car theft operation he and another man were allegedly running in the early 90s. According to Anderson's account, Tony had discovered he'd unknowingly bought a stolen car radio and threatened to go to police about it, a threat that put their whole operation at risk. On March 19, 1992, just days after Tony disappeared, Anderson says he brought Tony to a house in Noblesville belonging to the second man involved in the scheme. That's where, according to Anderson, things turned violent. The second man allegedly shooting Tony and stabbing him repeatedly. Anderson admitted he wasn't just a witness. He told investigators he struck Tony with a baseball bat during the attack. He went further, describing the knife used well enough that police were able to search the second man's home and recover a weapon matching his description exactly. Pulled out of a safe, along with 2 Oldsmobile Cutlasses towed off the same property, one matching the car Tony had been driving the day he vanished. Anderson also described the disposal in detail, dismembering the body, placing the head, hands, and feet in a concrete-filled bucket to prevent identification, wrapping the body in nylon rope, and spray painting it black. All details that lined up precisely with evidence investigators had quietly withheld from the public for over 3 decades, specifically to test claims like this one. He even recalled the 2 men driving through a town with "green" in its name before choosing a dump site, a detail that lines up with the discovery location roughly 10 miles from Greencastle, Indiana. What still isn't resolved, Anderson identified the second man, Andy Emert, as the one who allegedly fired the shot and did most of the stabbing. As of now, no charges have been filed against Emert. Investigators haven't publicly explained why, and it's unclear whether that's still under investigation or a question of evidence. It's a reminder that even a detailed confession doesn't automatically close every part of a case. For 33 years, Tony's family had nothing. Not even a confirmed identity for the person found in that ravine, let alone an explanation. His son, Justin, who was too young to really remember his father, has spent his whole life hearing the same insistence from people who knew him. He did not just leave. It took a DNA match to give Tony his name back, and a decades-old secret finally breaking loose to give his family something closer to an answer. Whether it ever becomes full justice for both of the men allegedly involved is still an open question. If a case like this makes you wonder how many other cold files are sitting one tip away from breaking open, let me know in the comments. And I can walk through the other cases from this same investigation if you want them next.